last minute because one of our speakers, there was a bereavement, so it didn't happen. And thanks to Marie, who had was talking about doing this, she kindly jumped in today to facilitate us. So really appreciate that, Marie, on behalf of everybody. And you can see by the turnout of people, it's very much a topic we all want to hear about. And so Maria Laffey, who's head of careers in the University of Galway and is also on the executive board, is going to share with us today an overview of ChatGPT and how it can be used for job searching and CV and interview preparation. And if it definitely helps me with my job, I'm all for it. So I see it as something that could support us anyway. So thanks a million, and thanks for everyone for joining. And again, the session will be recorded and up on our website as well, the AHECS website. Maria, do you want us to make this in presentation style?
Yeah. Yeah, if you just go slide share there, Caroline.
Thanks, Caroline. Thanks, Maria.
Yep. And are you giving me control then, Caroline? She's on administration, or she's on. Have I, maybe I'm just going to check. Have I control, Caroline?
I thought.
Sorry, 1 sec, Marie. Mine is acting up here. Just give me 1 sec.
The joys of technology.
Yeah. Yeah, you can test it and retest it. Results the day you wanted it.
That's it, yeah. And I don't know why because I shared something this morning on Teams. It was fine. So I don't know why it's not working now.
I find that Teams can be a little bit glitchy like that sometimes for no apparent reason. Yeah. Caroline, maybe it might be easier just for you to go through the slides, and Marie will tell you when to change. Would that be an idea? Just, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so, because mine is just all freezing here and spinning, and
all right, so that's fine, Caroline. If you want to just go to the next slide, that would be great. And I'll just call on you to do the next slide. And there's some sort of buttons to press that in terms of animation, so you'll be fine. So if you just want to go to the next one. So this is my robot friend. Someone said he's very scary. And I suppose just to get an idea, if you want to put in the chat, if you have used ChatGPT already, or if you're using it, so that we get an idea of how, what's the sort of level. So I've been using it now for a while, and I'm actually running this session with students later today. And it's one of the things I know there's an awful lot on from an academic perspective. People are very concerned, in terms of pages and so on, but I really see the value here for a lot of students. They find it very, very hard to articulate what to say in their CVs, how to prepare for their interviews in terms of research and answering questions. And so I think it has a role to play. And we've seen CareerSet, they have actually embedded it into their tool as well. And so I think it's the biggest message is around, what's the role it can play, and really saying to students, okay, it can be used as a starting point for you to get ideas, and then you have to personalize it, and then you have to make it your own. But I think it's really good in terms of a starting point. Just the next slide there, Caroline. So, ChatGPT is really OpenAI. It's machine learning. It's very much what we call supervised learning. You're putting in a request and you're getting something back out, and it uses a very wide data set, and it's learning every time anybody interacts with it. It's taking that learning. So anything that you put in, anyone that's putting in a CV or maybe job descriptions, is constantly learning all the time. The biggest thing with it is that is the prompts. So prompts, there's a whole new role called prompt engineering there. It's a new graduate position even that they're getting very high salaries if you've really developed the skill of prompt engineering. The idea with ChatGPT is that if you use basic prompts, you're going to get basic results. So I'm going to spend this session talking about how to maximize ChatGPT to get the best results and how you can share that with your students. And context really matters first. So you have to be very specific, give it examples. It uses persona, so you'll see in the examples I have, I'm pretending I'm a careers advisor or HR or a recruitment in an organization or placement officer, whatever it is. You need to give it a persona, and a lot of times people say they'll use the individual, oh, tell me what something is. But what that really limits you in terms of your search results back, because if you say, you are a careers advisor who is preparing for, it enlarges the data set that it can actually retrieve from and construct its reply. So if you just say, tell me about whatever, you're not going to get that enlarged response, more rich response. It's really important to verify the information. So one of the things I did recently is that I got it to generate a presentation, but the code that's used to generate the presentation, and I dumped that into the macros of the presentation in PowerPoint and got it to generate the presentation on that. And then I ended up getting a runtime error because the code was wrong. Now I have a degree in computer science. I used to code in the language that it's using in terms of Visual Basic, so I was able to fix the code and it went on its merry way. So the thing is, you have to really verify the information that you're getting, and it's important to tell students that they can't just believe everything. Can be a bit generic, particularly with ChatGPT 3.5. It's only has the data sets up to 2021. If you're using ChatGPT 4, which is you have to pay for, it's real time. Also, I've started to use Google Bard quite a lot as well. But again, Google Bard is real time, but you often search on the internet and someone, you always say, just check in terms of, Dr. Google or whatever. You have to check the information. So it's really important that we share that with students, that they're not to do that. So prompts. So the whole thing is driven by prompts. So understanding the prompts is really important, and the text it uses and how you can pull from those data sets. As I said, it's learning all the time. Every interaction is learning, and it's generating responses. Oh, sorry, just go back. Yeah. So as I said, it generates based on the knowledge. So ChatGPT 3.5 has only knowledge up to 2021. 4 is real time, or Bard is real time. So you may have to go through several iterations. So once you start a conversation with it, it's still in that conversation, unless you give it a different request. So you may say, well, that was great, but now I'm looking for you to refine that even more. And it's like literally a conversation you're having with it. And what you really want to do is generate those responses that are readable from a human perspective. So just the next one there, Caroline. So how do you format your prompts? So it's important to be very, very specific. So, if you give an example of, give me tips on how to write a good CV, you're going to get very generic information. But if you give me tips on where to write an effective CV for a graduate role in computer science, you're going to get very more specific information to that industry sector. Again, thinking about that. The version you're using, is it real time, or is it, the 3.5 up to 2021? So it's really important that you're very clear about the type of what you want to do, the type of information, and how you want it returned. So in terms of, and prompts will take refining until you're happy with the result. So there's lots of videos as well about how to create your personas, how to create prompts. And one of the things as well is that tone of voice. So for example, professional, often, we would want our students to be generating their CV in a professional tone. And the tone of voice is that if you imagine the response that gets back is someone talking to you, that you will, for example, if you want to, and you'll see later, look at response to an interview question. It's not a casual response. It's not a conversation per se, but you're giving back. You want the tone of what it replies back to be professional. So it's really important to know what tone you're in. So, for example, consider who your audience is in terms of those different tones. particularly for us, for students, it will be that professional tone in terms of the formal business setting, if they're doing their CV or if they're doing an interview. So I'm just giving an example there of a tone. So, you know, this is a very fun one. The party was super fun. Everyone has a great time. So I've asked to change that to be more professional. So you can see there, exceptional joy, attending a delightful socializing with those companies. So you can see the difference. So just on this one is you can create your own beginner's guide. So I have a prompt here. Again, we'll be sharing these slides. So you can say create a beginner's guide to ChatGPT. The priming is, you know, give all the data that you want to be specific about, and personas. What are the different personas that you could be using? And you're telling it to include examples, and it should be no longer than 500 words. Now that can be, your beginner's guide can include anything. So that's just a sample prompt for me, that if you just wanted to get top 10 tips on how to use ChatGPT to create that beginner's guide with examples. So again, it's being specific with the prompt, but it's really handy if you haven't used ChatGPT before. And I see a lot of people are haven't used it, but some are just messing around with it at the moment. So, you know, there's lots of great videos on YouTube as well in terms of how to use it, how to get the most out of your prompts. And it's really, you know, prompting and prompt engineering is really learning that on how to put together your prompts specifically. And we'll see that as we go along in the examples that I have. So just as I said, I put that one in there in terms of your a little sort of help guide. So the ChatGPT is in job searching. So for job searching. So you can actually generate a list of companies that you're a student, and you could say, give me the list of companies in the medtech sector in the west of Ireland that are currently looking for graduate hires. Now that, for example, you would need to be on ChatGPT 4 or Bard to get that real-time information. You can research, so you can drop it. I was going to show how you drop a URL in and you ask, research this company. I want to know who their competitors are, who their products are, what are the values, what's the culture, what are the typical skills. So just go back again, sorry. What are the skills they're looking for, and so on. Or you can look and say, well, what are the top 10 skills required for a particular sector? So we're going to go through each of these so you get an idea how to do that. And you can share these with students. So just the next one there. So, for example, I was going to show this one, but my screen isn't sharing. So you could actually say, you know, using a URL, provide key information on a company's service, clients, culture, also provide tips. So this is the second thing I'm asking. So if you only ask it one thing, right, it'll only give you that. But if you want to do something with the information it's asking you, you know, it's important to be, you know, to do like a dual prompt. So I'm also saying, okay, that's great about the key information of the whatever the company might be, but what are the tips that I can do in terms of job applications that align to the company's values? So if I was a student, I'd be dropping in a URL and I'd be asking this specific information that would help me in terms to align my CV or an interview. So again, this is where that preparation happens. So if you go to the next one, Caroline, you can see I use PwC, and this is the first part of the next slide shows the second part. So I dropped, this is the prompt in sort of red there, I dropped in, and then this is the response it gave me. So I asked it about PwC, I asked its clients, I asked competitors, I asked the culture. You can put in whatever you want into that. And this is the response that they gave back. And if you go to the next slide, I'd also said about tips about applying. So these were the tips they gave me back. So I literally just cut and paste that in back into the presentation. But I have done this on ChatGPT, and these are the results that it gives. So you can see there, you know, how rich it is for students in terms of, and these are things we're telling them all the time to do, right? We're telling them all the time to do these things. But again, they'll see it on in terms of the response. So then on the next one. So then, for example, research companies in a specific sector. So what I've said is, I'm thinking of Galway, I'm thinking of our students here, give me the list of top 7 companies in the medical technology sector in Galway. I want you to use their names and irrelevant information to maximize my chances of getting the job. Provide me tips on how to approach these companies, how to tailor my application to fit the culture and needs of the company. So this is a prompt I would have put into ChatGPT. And if you want to go next, Caroline. So this is what I get back. So the first part is I wanted the description, the website, the tips, and so on. So the first company came up actually was Medtronic. It even gave me the website. It gave me information about tips and how to apply, and it gave me the companies on the right. It gave me the exact same information, but relevant to those companies as it did to Medtronic. So that was the first part of my response. Then I wanted to get more information about that, and it said the second part was the tips. So when approaching these companies, how can I approach the companies and helping me in terms of applying for a position? So this was the approaching the companies. This is the information it gave me back. So then if I look for tips for a specific job, I said, what are the top 10 skills required for a graduate in digital marketing profession in Ireland? So why am I asking that? So we're telling students, you know, what skills to include in your CV, what are my strengths? So and how to tailor my CV for a particular job. So this is really good one in terms of that, and that they get to see, well, what are the skills it's looking for, and what ones apply to me and my experience, and to put that into their CV. So then the next slide will give the response. So I highlight in different colors here just so that the black would be too much to see. So these are the top 10 skills I came back with. So it really then explains, you know, if we look at digital marketing knowledge, having a strong understanding of digital marketing principles, strategies, and tools is crucial. And what are those tools? Or if we look at the technical skills, having an understanding of HTML, CMS platforms such as WordPress, teamwork and collaboration. So if we're out there and we're saying to students, so, you know, particularly in creative arts industry, and we're saying, we're giving a workshop on CV skills and how they have to build their CV. We'll say, here are the top 10 skills that they are looking for in Ireland. And, you know, how do these feature on your CV? Have you built these and experience in these? So it's really powerful for us to, and particularly for students, because sometimes they don't know what they don't know, and it's a great starting point for them. Just the next one. So then using ChatGPT to write your CV. So I really feel it's a great starting point for students, but it's really important, as I say, to verify the information and that it'll produce something, you know, that's quite generic, but then they have to put their impression of themselves on it and make it personal to themselves. And you can tailor a CV to an application. Now, this is really important, and it's important for yourselves and important for students. You do not put your personal information in when you submit in your CV, because, as I said, every interaction it's learning. And so basically, if someone, for example, you put in a great CV and it refines your CV and it gives that back to you tailored for a role, and someone else could come along and say, give an example of a role for digital marketing or whatever, that covers particular areas, and it may end up bringing back your CV, including your personal details. So it's really important that students know not to put anything that's identifiable when they're submitting, or even yourself not to put on, because every data set, every interaction is adding to the data set, it's adding and growing, and it's learning. So it's taking every interaction and that learning. So it's really important that, you know, in terms of security and privacy, that students are made aware of that. So then let's look at, well, let's write a CV. So this prompt, create a CV that stands out to potential employers. You will need, this is important now, you'll need to know about my work experience, about my education, any skills I have. Start by asking me to share my job titles and work experience. We'll then work with unique achievements or accomplishments that I have, and then ask me for my qualifications, so on. So what ChatGPT does with this prompt is it will ask you in stages for this information. So it will say, great, yes, let's get started. So now give me your professional work experience, and then you enter that in the conversation. Then it will say, give me your education, and then give me the skills. So you're feeding it in terms of that. And then it will come back with a CV for you that will hopefully stand out to employers. So I haven't put this one in here because it's difficult. So what I want you to show you here is that this is the response I got. So this is just, I did it on my phone, and I said, of course. And so you see here on the right, it says, of course, we will, you know, let's start by gathering the necessary information. This is ChatGPT responding to me. Please provide me with your experience, your education, your background, and any achievements. So I started then to put in all my information. So I said, okay. And what I did was I actually used the CV for maybe a graduate in computer science. So if you go to the next slide there, Caroline. So, you know, it'll come back and create the CV. So say, for example, students, I find students find it very hard to articulate their work experience. And you often get, I'm a sales assistant working in Tesco's. And so you could actually ask ChatGPT, you know, write in bullet points in the present tense, because you're working there at the moment, and highlight relevant skills, include potential numbers. We're always saying in terms of guidance and so on, be specific in that. So this is what ChatGPT came back with in terms of what the responsibilities would be of a sales assistant in Tesco's. So how is it finding that information? It's going out to a data set in Tesco's. It's probably looking at a job description from Tesco's, and it's pulling that information back and presenting it here in terms of its response, in terms of the responsibilities that that person would have. So again, I was going to do that one, but we'll see another one. So in terms of then, we want to tailor our CV to a specific job description. So we can say, tell it to optimize our CV, ask for about the job description, the CV, including main responsibilities and so on. And then I'm telling it, once I provided this information, I want you to offer me keywords, suggestions on skill set and experience that should be in my CV to help me start out. But first, ask me for my CV, and once I've done it, ask me for my job description, and then provide your recommendations in the key areas. So then what you do, you submit that prompt, and it say, okay, give me your CV. So you cut and paste your CV in, give me the job title and the job description, and you cut and paste those in. And it will come back with suggestions on how to improve your CV according to that job description. So again, in terms of tailoring, is very powerful for students, because we talk about tailoring your CV to a job description, and this is one way they can do that. So then again, a cover letter. So I'm asking it to write a cover letter, ask me in terms of the job title, the company, the skills I have, and tailoring that and so on, my achievements to that. So if you go to the next one. So this was actually a cover letter. So I basically set out, the role was at a graduate accountant position at KPMG, and I fed it information before the letter response that I did an internship. I said, here are my skills. So everything in terms of, here's my prompt, and then it asked me, okay, now give me these details. It took all those details, and then it created the cover letter for me. Again, really important for students to personalize this, because, you know, it's writing it in terms of, and again, you could say here in a professional tone, using the tone or the personas to create a more refined professional letter. The next one. So, you know, we move on to interviews. So then we're looking at interview questions, and so for our students, you know, they may be, what are the type of questions that they might be asked. So now I want to draw your attention to, it says act as a recruiter. So that's the persona that I was talking about. Provide me with sample answers for 10 of the most common interview questions for whatever job title in whatever sector. Keep the answers succinct with, well, that should say without a professional tone. That should, that should say professional tone. Professional tone. That was my typing incorrect. So I'll correct that on the presentation. So again, if you do the response. So here, that's just my typing there. So that's just the next slide there. And so I'm asking for the top 10 questions for computer science in the ICT sector. So here you can see it's saying, tell me about yourself. Why are you interested in working in our company? What relevant experience do you have? Again, reminding students they need to personalize these answers to their own experiences. And then moving to the next slide. How do you stay updated on latest technology and trends in the field? Describe a challenging project you worked on and how you overcame it. How do you approach problem solving in your work? So you see there, it's given sample answers to these. How do you handle, and this is all the response that came back. How do you handle working on multiple projects? What programming languages are you comfortable with? How do you handle feedback and criticism? And where do you see yourself in 5 years? So it's again drawing on those interview questions from its data set for that sector, for that role. Again, it's looking at those questions might change from ChatGPT 3.5 is only up to 2021. So you might need to go on to ChatGPT 4 and the top 10 questions could be slightly different. So just be conscious of that. It's just looking at what, I suppose, timestamp it's pulling that information for. So this is the next one. So then you want to basically look at specific questions. And I know our students often, you know, you say, tell me about yourself based on the CV, how would I answer that question? So this is one of our students always struggle with in terms of, you know, hear where they're from and who's their, how many children and this and that and the other and brothers and sisters and the whole lot. And you're trying to keep it very professional. So basically I submitted the prompt for a CV of a computer science in a personal profile, education, work experience, another experience in hotels, and then I included whatever technical skills they had. So it was just a mini CV that I submitted. And then if you go to the next one, so this is the response it gave in terms of how to answer that question. Tell me about yourself. So you can see there as a final year student, and it goes through education, it goes through their work experience, it goes through their technical skills, any other projects and hobbies and so on, and then overall their skills. So again, you can refine that prompt to cover whatever you want to cover in tell me a bit about yourself, you know, whatever your guidance is with your students and whatever you use in terms of supporting them to answer that question. So then, you know, we use the STAR framework, and this is where, you know, while ChatGPT is great, we still have to get them thinking about how to answer those competency-based questions. So I was still in a conversation with it, and I said, so remember we asked, what are the top 10 questions that you could ask and that could be asked? So now I'm drawing its attention back to question 5. Describe a challenging project you worked on and how you overcame it. So I've said, now I want you to use the STAR framework, write a detailed answer for question 5. So you see there the response, the situation it came up with, the task associated with that, if you go to the next slide, and then here are the actions that it recommends and the results. Now, again, it's really important that, you know, when the ChatGPT is asking, well, when you're giving the information of those projects and that question you answered, that you're specific about it so that it can construct the answer for you and for students. But you can see the level of detail. I mean, our students wouldn't have written this at all or even thought about preparing it. So it's a great starting point for them. But again, it's personalizing it. And even for ourselves, when we're talking about it to students, it's personalizing. But it's a really powerful tool in terms of that particularly for our students who may have dyslexia or any specific learning difficulty, it really overcomes that barrier for them. So then I'm saying, okay, so now I'm going for interview and I don't know what questions I could be asked based on that job description. So again, I'm using the persona. So I'm pretending I'm a recruiter who is going to be interviewing candidates. So I'm saying, provide me with 5 sample questions that I could ask potential candidates in an interview based on the following description, and keep the answers succinct. So I cut and paste the job description into it, and I actually used, for this one, I used currently out there at the moment, a graduate role in Stryker. And this is what it came back, right? So I'm assuming I'm a student or I'm a graduate and I want to apply for this role, but I don't know, based on the job description, what type of questions I could be asked. So by pretending and getting it to think as a recruiter, it looked at the job description and probably looked at information around Stryker from the data sets, and these are the questions that came back. So if I'm preparing for an interview, I would certainly be looking at preparing these questions. Again, the disclaimer, don't assume it's going to be these questions, but at least it's a great starting point for our students to think about what they could be asked in terms of a job description out there. Or even ourselves, if we're going for an interview anywhere else and we want to cut and paste the job description in and say, what are the potential interview questions that could come out of this? And say, again, use the persona. I'm in the HR of whatever, and I'm this is the job description, and I need to draft potential questions for candidates using the description. So again, it's, you know, even for ourselves, you know, if you're going for that job description, you could ask. Not that any of us are leaving or anything like that. Anyway, but again, it just shows you the power in terms of students getting to think. So then questions to ask in an interview. So we always say, I watched a clip actually yesterday, and it was on Instagram, and it was a clip about an employer asking a potential candidate. It was a, you know, acting clip. Have you any questions for us? And they said no. And so the employer's, you know, idea about going, oh, why have they no questions? Why are they not interested in my company? And it rolls back and says, have you any questions for us? Oh, yes, I have. And it listed a load of questions. So this is one way we can get students to think about, well, what questions should I ask in the interview? So act as a job candidate, prepare for an upcoming interview, research the company, you give the company name, you interviewing to gain understanding of their values, their mission, their work culture, any products or services or competitors, whatever it is that you want to, you're thinking about in terms of potential questions, and you're asking to return back just a list of questions. So if you go to the next one, there are all the questions. So I asked about Medtronic. So, you know, in terms of what questions, if I was going for an interview in Medtronic, what questions could I ask that would, and I was very specific about, you know, their guiding principles, their technologies, their competitors, whatever. And this is the answers that I came back. Okay. So then in terms of ChatGPT and your LinkedIn profile, so again, we're asking students, you could basically, and this, you could actually ask ChatGPT to write all of your LinkedIn profile. And I know LinkedIn is using technology too now as well to generate it. So, you know, you give your CV and you wanted to write the about section of my LinkedIn profile that will stand out to potential employers, highlight my experience and keep it under the 2,600 characters that LinkedIn allow. Or you can use your CV and you're writing out about the projects piece, or you're looking at your education piece, that all will fill in and generate those sections for you on LinkedIn, and you're just going to cut and paste them into LinkedIn once you've personalized them. So again, it's tailoring it to personalize, and be conscious that, you know, it's drawing from a data set that is it, which one is it that you know, 2021, because, you know, particularly if you're a particular sector you're trying to target, you want to make sure and verify the information. So I think really important considerations for students would be ChatGPT is really a starting point. It's not, you know, generated. Otherwise, everyone is going to have the same information, and it's about standing out from the crowd and really looking at how you personalize it and, you know, put in your touch and your authentic self. And that's what I'll be telling the students this evening. It's protecting your personal data, because anything submitted is submitted to everyone. Every single conversation, it's learning and it's building on its data set. As I said, it's that supervised learning in machine learning. It's taking in the information and it's adding it to the data set in order to be able to put an output. So it's really be conscious about when we're talking to students that we're protecting that personal data. I think if you have a very complex query or complex prompt, you break it down into steps. So you saw me there in terms of some of my prompts. They were very much broken down into, you know, first I want you to do this, next I want you to do this. So particularly if you're looking at it to review your CV against a job description, you know, you're going to tell it, first I'm going to ask me for my CV, next ask me for the job description, and then I want you to bring out a set of recommendations. So be conscious of that, you know, that break it down in steps for it. Use examples. So if you have examples like, you know, as I said, assuming those personas, whether you're a recruiter, HR, placement, whatever it is, that you use those examples so it understands the context, because it'll pull from a wider data set to bring you back your output. I found that when I started using it first, if you don't limit your response length, you're getting a huge amount of information and you want to limit that. So I look at things like, tell me the top 5, tell me the top 10, in terms of to limit its responses so that we have an idea. It's much easier to go through, and it's really verify your information. Like we always said that anyway, if you're out there and researching on Google, you really should be verifying your information, because often the data sets, like if you go into Wikipedia, we say don't rely on Wikipedia. It's probably using Wikipedia, because it's using every wide data set of everything and information of up to 2021 or real time if it's barred. And so it's really being conscious of that. And the other thing is that this is a starting point for our students, and then it's directing them to your own tools. So for example, we use CareerSet as a CV builder, so they could use ChatGPT to build out their CV and then submit it through CareerSet. Now CareerSet has added ChatGPT to it. I don't know if your students are using it, and I think they get 3 to 5 prompts, I can't remember, that they can use to revise their CV a day. So I think it's quite wise by CareerSet, integrating it into their system, because really, you'd be thinking, do you need CareerSet? But in terms of CareerSet itself is an AI machine learning tool. So so it's really directing them towards those AI tools or your own services, that it's okay, you've done your CV now, you've done, you've prepared for your interview, so then let's use our services for that. And then it's, just don't rely on ChatGPT. I think go out and have a look at Bard. Bard is just as effective. And the thing about Google Bard is it's real time, and where if you're using the free version of 3.5 of ChatGPT, you're only getting it, as I said, up to 2021. You can pay for ChatGPT 4, and ChatGPT 5 is coming out now, but you're going to be paying premium for our license fee for that. I think it's around 10-15 euro a month, I think, as far as I know. So that's it. If we go to there, I think that's it, Caroline. Yeah. So if you want to stop sharing. Now, I could try again to share to see if I can go on to ChatGPT and you could see actually how it's being used. So I'll try and share again. If not, we'll just take questions then. So anyone seeing that?
No, Marie, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I won't share. I'll just take questions from here then if anyone has any questions.
Marie, just before the questions start, just to say, sorry, my camera was acting up there again. Just to say that the questions here, when you get a chance or looking at the chat, just have a look at it, because it'll be great. Great little boost for you there of all the very positive comments. So thanks a million. And again, appreciate, because you're so busy coming on this week for us. So look, I'll stop talking now and just let, if anyone has any questions. Thanks again.
Yeah. So I see, I'm just going to scroll through. Is it question there? Have we had feedback from employers on how they view AI? I think very similar to what I'm saying here. They want to see the authentic self in the CVs and in the interviews. So I think, that's why we have to encourage students. So yeah, so I think, the employer feedback in relation to AI. So employers have said, well, to us, that they still want to see the authentic self of the student and the personalization. So I think it's important that when we ask and say that, yes, it's a great starting point for you to get started, but employers are looking for you and your personality in the CV and the interview. So you only use it as, it's to use it like all the tools that we have that help them get ready in terms of employability. So yeah, employers really still want to see that personalization. But I think for a lot of students, it really helps them in terms of articulating their skills and what they want to say, and hopefully then they go on to personalize it. So I'm just looking. So there's another Gamma app. That's who's that? Sandra is suggesting that. Yeah. So I've heard
there was a question there, Marie, about how did you learn to use it yourself, or like when did that process start for you?
Yeah, so when it released in January, I have a background in computer science, And so I'm actually doing an AI course at the moment myself. And so I did AI back in the 90s, or no, even the late 80s, dare I say it. And AI was really, really big in the late 80s, and it just sort of went away a little bit. And so I still, even though I'm in careers, I still wear my hat, I suppose, of in technology. I'm still very passionate about it. So that's the one thing. When AI was launched in January, it had the biggest sign up ever in the history of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. It was the biggest thing. I suppose I was one of those, and I suppose from my interest in career guidance and also technology, I just started to use it myself. And I found initially I was very basic in my prompts. So I went out and I would have, there's lots of great papers on it, lots of great information online about how to use it, and free information. So it's be conscious that you're not paying, there's lots of free information, but you can actually ask ChatGPT how to use it itself. As I said, they develop your own user guide. So you don't need to be paying anybody. You can ask it itself to help you. And just as the creator of it, there's a great TED talk about how they launched it and the power of it. So, even watching talks like that and the value it brings. And I think there's a lot of fear around it, but, it's only another tool like we have with, career set and big interview and shortlist me and all of these tools we all use, but it's what we want is to add direction to it. So I suppose this comes from my own interest in technology and how could we use it here, and I thought that it'd be something very useful. So I'm giving this presentation to students this evening in terms of helping them with their employability skills. So yeah, it's just an interest I have.
I have a question there, Marie.
Yeah,
unless there's somebody else.
No, I think
thank you so much. Absolutely fantastic for a computer scientist in our world to share their expertise. We're blessed. Orla from Trinity. Brilliant to see what's possible, and that personalization piece. It definitely dials up our need as professionals. I feel that we now, if we can automate part of our job, that personalization piece. My question is, now, not that you answer it necessarily, but what is it? That, like, for me, that's a really exciting question, because I think it can reshape what we do and how we do it. And just from a practical point of view, like all the competency interviews that our students have gone through, are we now going to see a shift towards strengths-based? And even strengths-based, I can see AI, because Emotionalize, it's a startup. I heard her at the tech conference last week in the RDS. And there's that whole emotional learning within machine learning. And I
totally agree. And I think it's even bigger than that, in that where are we adding value as career professionals, right? That if we're justifying our resources to the higher above, in that, sure, can't we just get this tool and we don't need you? So it's a bigger question on where's our value. And I think our value is the personalization. Our value is, for example, I had a student in here who was, looking to see what job or what sector to apply for. And, the AI isn't there yet to see those subtleties or the inferences that the student is telling you. So yes, it can produce, it only really produces what you're telling it to produce, but it's where we add value is to help that personalization, help that authentic self come out for students in their CV or their interview skills. I think it's where do we add value, but also we have to upskill. We have to upscale. This is hence why I'm doing an AI for professional course. We have it here in the university, and I'm sure there's plenty of other examples in other universities. We ourselves have to upskill with this technology and just and see where it positions in our service and where we're adding that value. Because it's absolutely racing ahead. I mean, the power and the popularity of ChatGPT, it actually blew me away. And I've been in technology since 1987. And it just blew me away. The pace is what blew me away, which is why I started in January to start getting involved with it. So I think it's where's our added value, We have to upskill and keep pace with it. And as you say, the personalization, and it's great as a starting point, but our value is how we can support students to personalize and bring their authentic self. So maybe that just answers your question. So I just have a question here. Any challenges for promoting AI to students? No, we haven't, because we will have disclaimers in, so I could be promoting ChatGPT, we promote Career Set, but we have disclaimers that say and cover ourselves in terms of do not put in your personal information. And so, as long as we cover ourselves from that perspective, but it is important that they're aware around that. But students are using it, for academics, so we want them to use it responsibly, and this is one of the reasons why I developed this workshop for students, so they can use it responsibly and understand how to use it from their career development, career planning.
And there was just another quick question there from Julie around uploading and submitting your CV. Is it just a matter of cut and pasting it?
Yeah, cut and paste it in. So you're going to tell it to, so you, it's pity I can't show it today, but you're going to tell it, first ask me for my CV, then ask me for the job description. So it's like a conversation. So it'll say, okay, so just respond now with your CV, and literally it's a cut and paste into it and into the chat, and it takes your CV. Then it will ask for the job description. It takes that, and it's literally less than 20 seconds is coming back with a response of tailoring. So literally less than 20 seconds it comes back. So can you imagine trying to do that even yourself, if you're looking at that? So again, it's a great starting point. So it's tailored it for you, and then you have to take it from there yourself. So yeah, it's just a matter of cut and pasting in, and you could, as I say, it's very powerful. You can do your CV, put in your CV, put in your job description, and then say, so based on my CV and based on this job description, what are the interview questions I'm likely to be asked? And it's just cut and paste it all in, and it takes it from its data sets and it comes back. The free version, I don't think it does, but I would use it on the browser, because it doesn't have ads on your browser. But if you download the free the app on your phone, particularly the 2.5, it's just mental in terms of apps every two responses. But no, you can work away on it.
Thanks, Marie. Yeah. I didn't even know it had an app. I was
yeah,
only looking at it on the web.
Yeah. And the app, they're just the questions. Now, if you want to buy the 4 and use that one, you don't get ads, but the ads on the app are just horrendous. Now, Google Bard you can put on your phone, but again, it doesn't have ads. So it's Bard is playing a bit of a catch up, because ChatGPT came out very quickly. But the one thing about ChatGPT as well, for those who want to do it, you can actually plug in lots of different things. So you can plug in, in terms of, like I had it generating a PowerPoint code that I could just plug into PowerPoint, and it created all the slides for me. So I just said, generate the code for this presentation. I want you to cover these topics and these slides, and include graphics, include links, the whole lot. And it'll actually either create the presentation for you, or it'll create the code that you drop into macro into PowerPoint, and it creates the presentation. You don't even have to cut and paste it in. So like, it's really powerful, and lots of different plugins that you can use with it as well. Bard is free, yeah. OpenAI is all free. It depends, in terms of if you, as I said, the 3.5 is free, but it's only up to data set of 2021. So if you want anything beyond that, you have to pay for ChatGPT 4. But Bard is free, as far as I know.
Okay, thanks a million. That was an amazing presentation. I'm blown away by how much work you've put into it.
Yeah.
I can see, because I did a little bit on ChatGPT and I got nowhere near.
Well,
there's hours of your life in that presentation.
Yeah, experiment with the prompts yourself, but you have good prompts there. Experiment with them, and share them. Happy to use that with your students. I'll be using something very similar this evening with students.
It's really generous of you to share it. Thank you so much.
No, that's what we're about, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, Microsoft bringing out the co-pilots. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what that'll be for our PDF and doc. So, again, that's their version of AI, and that'll be. There's quite a lot of excitement about that all actually, around how that will position Microsoft. So, be interested to see. So again, it's about upskilling yourselves, and even maybe taking an AI course that. Maybe just for me, I'm looking at AI and where does it position career guidance, and where do we, what's our role in it, and that's why I'm doing the course.
And sorry, apologies if anybody else wants to come in, tell me to stop talking. But I was just wondering, Marie, have you heard any rumblings from employers about? It's probably too early yet for them to be talking about getting the same answers to things from students. I presume it's early days for that yet.
So rumblings about what?
Employers, any employers saying that they've noticed students are giving them the same answers in interviews. You know, the way you can have lots of CVs that look the same.
Yeah, I think they are in terms of some are saying they are, that okay. But some it's like the same, that they're using the same template.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Actually,
and that's
can I
back to
pop
telling
in?
The students to personalize it. Yeah, I'm gone. Thanks.
No. Sorry, I was just going to join you for a second.
Completely.
Not at all, Tracy. Thanks. First one, really fabulous. I'm just going to jump in for a second before I go to a student, probably like everybody else here. Just in regards to that comment you were asking about there, Tracy, we had a seminar with some employers in Cork last week. I'm in MTU, and we had a representative from Apple, and he was saying as part of their graduate program, they request students to generate an essay, and they discounted over 100 this year because they were AI generated, and they were so similar. So he said there was no personality in there. You could tell by reading them there was no personality. So it is having a negative impact as well, because I suppose students at the base of it, they want to get to the good stuff, and they want to bypass what they find is a little bit boring or not fun and not Insta ready. And I suppose it's probably our job to make them aware that it's not foolproof. But
employers
thanks very
are looking
much.
At this too.
And that Olga, what they should have done is, there's other tools out there that you could submit your ChatGPT reference and say personalize this, and make it more human, and don't have it obvious that it's come from you. And so, if they know they could do that, they're absolutely great workarounds. And even you can cut and paste. You can cut and paste a CV or into ChatGPT and say, did you write this? And it'll come back and say, yes, I did. So that's, but again, there's other tools coming out now, to particularly from academics, did you write this piece of code, or you did this piece of assignment? But there's more tools out there now that are basically saying you submit that in to make it to un-ChatGPT it. Wow. So those 100 students didn't that, but
maybe it was their lack of knowledge, maybe.
Lack of knowledge. So again,
thanks
it's
very
about
much.
That's great to hear, because it's great. For us, it's important to say that employers know if it's generated. So you're going to have, it's a starting point only. And particularly, how many of us see them struggle writing their work experience into something that's meaningful. So it'll get them started, and then they put in their own personal touch into it. And I think that's what's important, and that's what we reiterate. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to. Caroline has the presentation; she sent it out. And if anyone has any questions, or if you're using it, feel free to contact me.
Thanks very much, Marie. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Marie, thank you so much for that presentation. It was it really was fascinating, and thanks so much for jumping in and actually, in terms of just what happened with what was meant to be happening today. So hugely grateful for that. So interesting, and actually, I kind of came on with a much more negative slant on ChatGPT, funnily enough, and now I've got a much more kind of a positive framework around it. So I'm really happy about that, and looking forward to actually getting my hands in there and really using it. I know we're all jumping off now because it's just coming up to the 2 o'clock mark, and we've probably got lots of different meetings, etc. going on. But just to say thanks an absolute million, you're a star.
Absolutely, not at all, Dawn. And I'd say happy to answer any questions. If anyone wants to contact me directly, feel free to do that.
Thanks, Marie.
Okay.
And thanks everybody for being here today.